Welcome to another edition of the Committed 100 Ministry Group, where we are 100% committed to teaching the Bible to those who are 100% committed to learn. And part of our learning, of course, is verse by verse Bible teaching. And we have spent many, many years in the expositional teaching of God's Word, and this is no exception. We're verse by verse through the Book of Proverbs, still in chapter 16. And we're looking, of course, the wisdom of God and the life of the worshiper of God. And that covers various topics all through life's topics. If you really want to get a grasp of life, study the Book of Proverbs. There's so much that's there that I think we really miss. And we do it with the rest of Scripture too, which really is sad. But anyway, it's a blessing to be with you. My eyes look all tired and bloodshot. They are tired and bloodshot. I put some drops in it before the program. I might even be a little bit dehydrated too, so please be in prayer about that. Have my little bottle of water here with, stuff in it to help to hydrate. You get older, you need more fluids. This is not a health program per se, but sometimes, I like to throw a little ditty in there. If you're, old, we have a tendency to drink less water or fluids. And I don't want to be passing out nowhere. That ain't fun. Anyway, Book of Proverbs. Very, very, very important book. And again, I want to make sure I do this. Always want to do this. I want to thank each and every financial supporter to myself personally and to the work. Most thankful for you. Just incredible how the Spirit of God moves upon the hearts of you, and without having to beg, because I hate doing that and I'm not going to do it. Begging and pleading for people, putting guilt trip on people. If we're walking in the Spirit, we already know what He's, commanding and leading us to do. So there's no need to be begging and all that kind of nonsense. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Tremendous thanks. And even to a far greater degree, thank you for those who are praying for this work. And double, triple, quadruple thank you for praying for this old warhorse, this voice in the wilderness. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. All right. Proverbs chapter 16, quick review. He that is slow to anger is better. Verse 32 of Proverbs 16. Better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city. In other words, a person who is long fused, as it were. We use the expression short fused or short tempered. There is an opposite statement that goes along with it. That's long tempered and long fused. They don't fly off the handle. But a person that really is long fused has dominion and command and mastery over his or her own emotions and affections and will and thoughts. We used to think about things. Now we just fly off the handle. But that person that has control demonstrates a strength that is greater than a conquering army. Sometimes in military conflicts, and I've seen it, obviously having had military experience even before that, is a lot of leaders, especially those out of OCS or officers' schools, they want to try to prove their mettle in combat situations. And they often make very dumb decisions, knee-jerk reactions. They're trying to prove something. And for example, in Vietnam, many of these guys that just came out of officers, training school, OCS, officers cadet school, whatever, various other titles, they were going to conflict having no experience in warfare except through simulation and study in books. And they would, get embedded in troops that have already seen combat. You have NCOs E5s, E6s, maybe even E7. These guys already saw conflict. And usually the smart lieutenant who had a working brain would get in line and listen to the NCOs that already had combat. They're the ones with the experience. They know what's going on and learn from them. And usually a person who doesn't have that temperament makes rash and stupid and foolish decisions, either gets himself killed, either by the means of the enemy, or if you're really dumb and you keep putting troops in harm's way, it was not uncommon for officers to get fragged by their own men. Not that I'm suggesting that's a good thing. I'm just saying that oftentimes people make dumb choices and armies suffer. The greatest obstacle that we must overcome is the war within ourselves. And the war of living a self-controlled, spirit-controlled life is much better, of course. To me, is the greatest war of all for the believer, the warfare amongst yourself. And we looked at the recognition and the need, how many of us really recognize this kind of need for mastery. And we talked about some guidelines to deal with this. In other words, recognize the problem exists. Yes, it does. And many of us are taken in by complete surprise because we never think that there is a problem, so we make no preparation. If there's one thing that I have been harping on forever and a day, that's the word preparation. We have to stop being naive about everything, the Christian life and life, period. Preparation. We go through life without no thought, no forethought about what we're going to be doing. No preparation, no plan, nothing. I tell you, 70 years of watching people, I'm telling you, we are the most ignorant lunkheads I've ever seen in my life. The things I'm watching, the things I'm witnessing, the things I'm hearing, the things I'm seeing. Get back to the text, Mr. Howard. Recognize the problem exists. Okay, we dealt with Proverbs 16:33. Not going to do it again today. Recognize, number two, our body's tendency to fail without control. Yeah, if we're not prepared, we snap, we crack, we get crazy. Number three, everyone, even people used greatly of God, recognize the reality of it. Exactly. We're going to see that in a moment. Number four, recognize that a failure to live a self-control, and I should say spirit control, life will end in disaster. Okay. Proverbs 25:28, in conjunction with this verse, says, he that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. Wow. And really, the language in that verse is quite easy to understand. Now, a city's defenses was its walls. And without walls, of course, the city was vulnerable to attacks from all sides and by all enemies and totally defenseless. So, the man or woman who does not have control over their own lives is vulnerable to attack from all sides and by all enemies and totally defenseless. There are a lot of people today who don't get it, that the reason why their lives are a complete shamble and an ash heap is because their walls are broken down. They don't have any control over themselves. They don't see that they are vulnerable to anything and everything because they made no preparation in their life to anticipate, if I do this or I don't do this, what is the effect? If there's one lesson Proverbs teaches us, that is preparation, forethought, thinking in advance. Don't go here. That's preparation. Don't involve yourself with this person. That's preparation. Don't see her. Don't see him. Don't do this. Don't do that. All those are preparatory commands and preparatory advisement. And most people don't think like this. That's why they just knee jerk around and wonder why they experience the madness that they do. And some of it, I say most of it is, well, it can be painful to some degree, but oftentimes it ends in death. People need to understand if we're not prepared for what's going on, well, don't be surprised if you experience the results of that absence of preparation. So a person that doesn't have control over their lives is vulnerable. And listen, do I have to tell you about this? You do know people. You see it all the time. People have no control, zero. They're a wreck. I mean, it's like it's crazy town. If that's what people want, well, that's what's going to happen. Okay. The broke down walls describe a city that is overrun by the enemy. Now, is that the way that you and I want to live in this life? Broke down? No. If you are tired of a broke down life that you have to bandage up all the time, then let's learn to build walls that will protect us from ourselves. I would probably say the number one person we need to be concerned about fixing up is us. Go to the nearest mirror, look at it, and go, I need to fix you up. Stop trying to fix the planet, fix yourself. If everybody went to a mirror today and decided they were going to fix themselves, we'd have a happy place. Because that's where usually much of this stuff begins. And even if it doesn't, I don't want to be a problem about that. I don't want to be a person who people look at and go, that man is a fool. I am forever grateful, absolutely thankful that I live in a mobile home park. I see people every day and I have their respect because I don't act a fool. They know they can come to me at all times, anytime. That's the kind of relationship. I want to be that person that, this man, you can count on him. He keeps his promises. I want to be a blessing to people. Don't you get it? I don't want to regret this life. I'm old and I'm thankful to God. He let me have 10. And whatever time I have left, I want to be a blessing to people. There's no premium in just being stupid and old and bitter. If my neighbors here help, they come and, Mr. Harley, what you need? The manager said, so said, do you need a spare phone? I'll give you a spare phone if you need it. Listen, I want to be a blessing to people, but that can only happen if my life is together. And the one who keeps my life together is the Lord. But I have to cooperate with him. I have to cooperate with his wisdom. I have to be the person that makes the decision, that has a forethought and insight. I'm not going to be a fool today. So how can I prevent that? I got to go to the word. I got to have the wisdom of God. There you go. Simple. Simple, 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 simple. Stop making this more complicated than it is. Fix up yourself. Well, let's see how this can be done. Because it can be done. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 24 through 27. We can see immediately that all four guidelines are right here in this text. Boom. 1 Corinthians 9, verse 24. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that you might obtain. Run to win. Don't you know? This goes right back to the first guideline. Recognize the problem exists. Don't you know? Paul says, make a determined effort to win the spiritual race in this life. Make a determined effort to control yourself. If you don't, you lose. As we're going to see in this verse 25, and every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. In other words, you have to be self-controlled. There are rules to the game. There are rules that apply if you want to be a runner. Well, you're going to have to do certain things. You're going to have to sacrifice certain things. You're going to have to give up certain things, even for a period of time. I've known a couple of people. I've known a young lady that used to run in the LA Marathon, and I knew a man who ran the Boston Marathon. I have great regard for those who run these marathons. And it's interesting that they never knew each other. And it was a lot of years that the first gentleman I knew ran the Boston Marathon. He came to work the next day. I'm like, dude, wow. And the other was a young lady that I used to know. They both had consistency. It was discipline. They had to give things up. And they focused themselves on practicing, running, getting their cadence right, getting the breathing right. There is a certain discipline of life. There are rules. You just can't make up the rules. You can't go in a marathon, the Boston Marathon, the LA Marathon, New York Marathon. You just can't go there and have a hidden bicycle, motorbike, and you just, through half the course. You can't do that. You'd be disqualified. There are certain rules and principles that are given in each of the runner's life. You can't just do anything you want. Every man that's striving for the mastery, say, look, the striving is self-controlled in all things. You want to run a race to win? You got to be self-controlled. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we ain't incorruptible. Our striving, our temperate nature, our self-control is designed for a far greater prize. A far greater prize. There must be self-control in all areas of life, not some areas, not even most areas, but a person who is diligent in the spiritual race must exercise self-control in all things. And if you don't, you lose. Now, you can have the greatest coach in the world. You could have the greatest uniform, might be sponsored by fill in the blank, looking all good. You got the whatever. And you're up on the line and you got your foot on the stirrup there. And, then the cameraman the announcer goes, wait a minute. Look at runner 5. He or she's wearing combat boots. Combat. Yeah, look, they're wearing, combat boots from basing. And the gun goes off and you just chugging along. You're last. You weren't self-controlled in all things. You didn't think about it. You figured I could do this. No, you can't. You have to be self-control in everything. We allow a lot of vulnerability in our lives to happen, and we don't think that it's a problem. And you know what? We too stubborn and proud to listen to people going, you got combat boots on. You're not supposed to. Shut up. I know what I'm doing. I'm grown up. You know what? Go ahead, fool. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. When you trip up and lose the race, don't come crying to me about it. I warned you in advance. Warned you in advance. You lose. Notice there is a reward, yet future, but a reward nonetheless for this kind of lifestyle. It is the reality of this future reward that dictates the way I run down here. You look at the value of the reward and go, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth the running. It's worth all the preparation that's necessary. It's worth it to get the goal, to get the prize. Again, I'll use myself as an example. When I started with the martial arts many years ago, uh, I had a focus, and that focus is still to this day. And a lot of people didn't bother to ask, which was kind of ridiculous to me. Here's a person wanting to be involved in the martial arts, and usually the first question you should be asking is why? What is your goal? Why is it you want to be X, Y, and Z? In all the years of the martial arts, not a single person asked that question. Either they assumed that they didn't care. And I'm thankful that I wasn't really left to be bothered with what they wanted. I think it's a fair question to ask somebody, but I already knew what I wanted to do. So my whole intent of taking the martial arts was to be prepared if in life, like anything else, if some fool decides to, you know, afflict me or my family, well, I want them to know it's going to be a bad day. But it was not only that, and I never really had an intention of going much further, but I look back at all the things that I had to give up, all the disciplines that were necessary, the thousands, the tens of thousands of hours of katas and forms and techniques and skills and training and study. I'm still doing all that to this day, believe it or not. You know, and people like to challenge me, the youngsters in particular. They're young and they're fast. And one guy was, yeah, you're kind of old and slow, till I hit him in the chest. Now he has a newfound respect for the old man. I told him, I said, yeah, that's what I want you to think. He's old and slow. He's a little overweight. He's old and slow. And now you just ate this right hook. So what do you think now, buddy? Oh, well, yeah, you make your valuation and I'll let you have it. But the discipline allows me to be able to look at things. Someone threw a ball and I just flicked it without even having to look at it. It just hit peripheral and I just flicked it. They're like, wow, how did you know? You just know. You just do. That's what hours and hours and years of preparation will make you ready. And in life, you have to be ready. And spiritually, we definitely have to be ready because it affects all areas of our life physically. It really does. We need to be prepared. I think there might be, time really disappears because I want to make sure that these programs also go on Absolute Truth Radio. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everybody who is listening on Absolute Radio. You know what? Write that email, harleyhowardradio@gmail.com. harleyhowardradio@gmail.com. Let me know who you are, where you're listening from, what country you're listening from. Let somebody know. Let me know so I can pray for you. If you have any prayer requests, anything you need to know, let me know. harleyhowardradio@gmail.com. Even if you're not on Absolute Truth Radio, if you're listening and watching this on YouTube, same truth applies. Let me know. God bless you. Till next time.